Hi, friends, and welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Jody, counselor, coach, and someone who's deeply passionate about living a meaningful life, not just a busy one.
And I'm Abby, coach, adventure enthusiast, entrepreneur, and someone who is deeply passionate about looking inward to build onward and live a life that's totally me.
Hi, Abby. All right. So today we're talking about legacy. We're talking about what remains, what people remember us when we walk out the door, who we are, and how we show up in this world. So, Abby, I'm going to let you lead out on some thoughts of what legacy means to you.
The first thing that comes to mind for me is kind of a mindset shift around, I think historically legacy has been something that you pass on, or like something that's present once you die, or maybe are no longer in a location around certain people, things like that. But I think legacy is more about, to me, about being who you are in the present, and like the impact that you have on those around you, and doing that on a consistent basis, and being consistent thoughts, words, and actions, no matter the room that you're in or the people that you're with. Um, so, so I guess state of being, your impact on others. It's something that's in the present. And I think it's also something that's inspiring too, where, um, whether it's intentional or not, I think people like to be inspired and use that as an opportunity to self-reflect on their own lives, to offer them the chance to think like, oh, am I doing and being the type of person that I want to be? Or is there, who's kind of like a model as far as like principles and values and essence, that person wants to be too.
I love it. So what our guests need to know is that you and I have had multiple conversations about legacy and who we are and how we show up in this world. So I love your answer. I love where your head is going, because you're right. It is about longevity. It's about what we leave behind after we're gone, whether we, leaving the room or leaving this earth, right? And it's also what we do present moment. And so I like your answer. So let's dissect a little bit about, what do you think people will remember you, once you leave the room, not when you are leaving this earth. Everybody wants an epitaph. Everybody wants a eulogy that talks about all their strengths, but who is it that we are when we show up every day? So when you leave the room, what's somebody going to say about you?
I'd like to think that people say that I'm kind, that I'm very open-minded, non-judgmental, even-tempered, grounding to be around. I think viewed as somebody who works really hard, who likes to give it my all, who cares about other people, who likes to make sure that others are taken care of. I think people would say that I'm courageous, that when the time comes and if I need to have the hard conversation with somebody, I will, that I challenge others to think about the hard, or like to ask others the hard questions. I think people would say that I'm a good person. So,
Okay.
What about you?
Well, hang on. I'll answer in a second. My question for you is, what makes you confident that that's the answer?
I guess people have told me that.
Okay.
I think it's reinforced by like what people have said about me, whether it's like my personal friends, and my social network, my partner, people in the workplace, like the feedback that I have gotten from them, I've heard, which is nice because, I think of that phrase of, we we think about ourselves, the perception of what is it? I'm trying to think. it's like we're not who we think we are. We're not what other people think of us. We are what we think other people think about us. That one.
Well, that's
Uh,
layers deep.
yeah. Somebody important said that. That's
Somebody
not from
important
me,
said that.
but
Yeah.
it's, I guess, thinking about like the values that I want to live by and working to live by them. I take that time to be contemplative, to do I think I'm living by these? Why or why not? But it's nice to hear that, like the feedback from others too.
Yeah.
So,
And we do need feedback, right?
mhm.
It's nice to know what others think about us, but end of the day, this question relates to what we think about us and how we're living our lives, right? I know for a fact that I am a strong cup of tea. That sometimes when people click off of a session because I'm doing everything remotely, that they're pissed or they're not super thrilled with what I had to say. But more times than not, the feedback that I get is that they're grateful that I was willing to say the thing or have the hard conversation because it's triggered growth in them. Okay. Do I want to be liked by everyone? Well, hell yeah, everybody does, right? But I've accepted the fact that not everybody is going to like me. But I live true to myself. I try to share from the heart. I try to be authentic and give people honest answers. Doing that doesn't always win friends, but it does win respect.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It's not always important to be liked by everybody because I feel like that layers into like being a people pleaser, right? Like we're never going to please everyone. We're all intrinsically unique and different and have different ideas on how we see the world and how we want to live our lives, and that's okay. But to be
Mhm.
able to challenge someone into the discomfort of thinking through their scenario so they can discover like what's best for them, yeah, I feel like that
Yeah.
absolutely leads to respect more than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. As a coach, we have to. We're
Mm-hmm.
not doing our job if we're simply people pleasing or we're giving somebody what they want to hear. If they want to grow and they want to show up and have a conversation with a vibrant living coach, they want us. They need us to be authentic. They need us to brave that and be willing to be unlikable in the moment, knowing that the bigger picture, we really had their best interest at heart.
Mm-hmm. When you think about legacy, what comes to mind for you and how you want to be?
Good question. I mean, the obvious answers are wealth or, leaving behind, an estate. But in truth, I want to know how people felt when they were in my presence. I want to know that they know they mattered to me and that I shared myself and my words with them because I cared. So I think that's the legacy I would want to believe to leave behind.
In my personal experience, you've done that. So, because I definitely feel like I matter
Yeah,
anytime I'm speaking with you. So, you're
you do
definitely
matter.
already actively living out your legacy.
Yeah. I had a pastor's wife. I grew up in church, right? So I'm not a PK kid. I'm not a pastor's kid, but I grew up in church. And I had, as a young adult and an early married woman, I had a pastor's wife that took me under her wing. And she loved me. I was messy. My kids were messy. It's just like life was messy. And she loved me so unconditionally. And I told her name was Judy. I said, someday I hope that I grow up and I can be just like you. And I can help people see the best in themselves, even when they feel really, really messy and they don't feel like they have much to offer in the world. I really hope that I can be that to the world. Now, she's no longer with us. She died of brain cancer. And I hope in some way that I am living out her legacy of unconditionally loving folks and helping them see the best in themselves when they can't see it.
So beautiful. And kind of ties back to a little bit of what I mentioned before of like drawing inspiration to others and like passing those values forward into the world and around you,
Yeah.
uh, which is powerful and important. I think that's how it's like balancing that the component of like traditional with evolution, being able to keep like those core foundational values that are so important to our world.
Yeah. Yeah. How do we give back? You and I have had a lot of discussion about the state of affairs in the world right now and the incongruency in value system and what we're seeing on social media. And when we think about when somebody stands up for what they believe in, and maybe it costs them their family or their family their presence, you can't help but tie that back to legacy because they believed in such a way that they were willing to die for what they believed in. And their family was willing to stand beside them, even if it might cost them
Yeah,
everything,
no matter the risk.
no
Mm-hmm.
matter the risk. And I feel like we're in a day and age where people don't think about that. They don't think
Oh.
about what is my part to play, even if it costs me everything.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that these conversations and I hope what we're doing with Vibrant Living will challenge folks to re-engage with humanity, to go from a me attitude to a we attitude, and then sometimes the cost is worth it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you nailed it right on the head. Yeah, I think legacy ties people together too. It's a way to like bridge ourselves to other people and the world around us, and in a world that like feels so divided at times, and or like not understanding how we can connect with other people who maybe view the world differently. Um, I think legacy can be a way to help us like connect with others, because I would say, I mean, there's foundational things like love and happiness and some of these concepts that are just like intrinsic to the human experience, family,
Yeah.
you know, and driving conversation around what all of these different types of concepts can look like, though different at the core, like
Yeah.
family is family, like love is love, like, and um, I think creating a picture, a pathway for people to connect, even when maybe the action of, family or the action of love is different, but it's still to find commonality. Sorry, I feel like I'm repeating myself.
Sometimes I think we repeat ourselves because there's the need to drive an idea home,
Mm,
you know.
yeah.
And there's so much for us to pause and consider in what's going on in the world right now. You know, in thinking about what we're seeing, the next question we had was if you could plant one seed today, what would that be? That would outlive you. What would that be?
Kind of going back to like what I think about, like what I want my legacy to be. I feel like it's like wrapped in like freedom and choices and like being able to inspire others that no matter what phase in life that they're in, that they can choose and reinvent themselves and, um, be who they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to like live a life of freedom.
Define freedom. Paint me a picture.
Say something along the lines of like to be bold and open and free to express oneself, while creating a safe space for others to do the same, whether that's like thinking, loving, exploring, and just acting freely and curiously, um, keeping one's values and morals in mind.
Yeah, I like that. We think of morals and values sometimes as like boxing us in, right? They're boundaries. But sometimes our boundaries give us the freedom to be who we are because we don't have to worry about the other pieces. As you were talking, I was thinking about what my nighttime meditation lately has been. My son Culpa has been my nighttime meditation has been like the seed that I'm planting is financial freedom. Because were I to be completely financially free, then I have the capability of speaking my truth, doing the things I love, that I'm passionate about, the things that impact others that I don't have to worry about how the bills are going to get paid. And then I am free to do the things that I love, that I know impact others, you know? So I think if we thought more along those lines, what could we do so that we are free? What is the one seed we could plant today that would give us the freedom, like you're talking about, to instill or impart legacy to other people in our world?
I think it's interesting because this new job I have, I really like it. But the one thing I still think about is just like being able to fully dedicate myself to like full time, like all in on vibrant living when it comes to podcast and coaching and retreats and just like giving every ounce of my energy to helping others
Mm-hmm.
find freedom in their life.
Yeah. That's what you're passionate about, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So how do we get there, right? How does any one of us, once we, because you know what, we get past the age of 6 or 7 and we forget about who we are and what we want to be. One of the things I love to do in coaching and in counseling is to find out what people wanted to be when they grew up. Because more times, oh, I wanted to be a trumpet player. Oh, I wanted to be a fireman. Oh, I wanted to be da 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 da. And then life happens and it's like, or I wanted to be, a lead guitarist in a band. But instead I'm a lawyer, you know.
Yeah.
I've been out
Or the
places.
whimsical
Like, what do you do in
desires.
your real job?
Yeah.
The real job is the one that pays the bills,
Yeah.
right? But what would it be like if people could live the life that they loved, that they were doing the thing they were passionate about instead of the thing that got them by? So part of what you and I are passionate about is helping people find that way to marry up those two concepts, right? To be able to live a life that they would love and pay the bills.
I feel like too, like the freedom to move, like the freedom of access,
Yeah.
financial freedom. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of components to freedom, but I do think it all, at least in my mind, it all like starts with the freedom of being able to choose, and
Yes.
then like the freedom to believe that it's possible. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think that stops a lot of people too, of like, oh, well, I chose this life, and like, so I have to stay here in it in this way.
Yeah.
Um,
And you don't.
and they
You
don't.
don't. If it's not serving you anymore, you really don't.
Yeah.
So we have to remember that people, from a biological standpoint, will choose authenticity or will choose attachment over authenticity almost 10 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
So exactly what we're talking about here. We're going to choose safety, not who we are truly. So as coaches, we love trying to help people find the way to be authentic and secure in their attachments, finding security within themselves, right? And then that radiates out into their relationships so that they once they've found their groundedness in who they are as a human and what they stand for, what they believe in, who they want to be, how they want to show up in the world. And we help them radiate that out into how do they show up in the world. We get asked the question all the time about past trauma, developmental trauma, and how that influences the way that we respond, whether it's to criticism or to coaching. And what would you say, Abby, has been the impact for you of your past traumas and how you've moved forward in this process? And what do you think you could say that would offer our listeners hope about overcoming those barriers?
Question. I think understanding who the voices are in your head that are talking to you is very
Mhm.
important. Um, I think uh, the level of self compassion that is required, I think,
I
can be
agree.
so difficult, especially like when we're self criticizing ourselves. You can't even think about being compassionate. I feel like the value in having a coach from that standpoint is just a game changer because the coach gets to be the voice of compassion when you need it and when you can't be.
Hmm.
I think for me, like I just had such a yearning desire. Like I didn't know the way forward, like so to speak. I didn't know like there was so much mystery, but all I knew was no matter what, I was like the voices need to stop, and I
Yeah.
need to interrupt this pattern. I need to break the cycle, and of course there were days where like I was too tired, I didn't want to show up, or didn't even feel like talking, but it was there was still just like a level of consistency and moving forward anyways that I feel like that was the biggest. That's what like made such a difference. Because there were days I remember like I had these like epiphany moments that I wasn't expecting to have them. They would just kind of happen,
Yep.
and then yeah, and then it was just like, oh, I get it now. So then I think you just are able in time like to you can instead of like you're still in like the trauma will always be there. The trauma will always impact you, but it's just like you learn different skills to handle it in the moment. And then like the more the awareness, the greater the awareness, you can recognize quicker and then like have the tools on your tool belt in order to deal with them and process them
Right.
quicker. And with that too, it's like you're separating yourself. Like I remember before I felt like the trauma, the response, the voices in my head were all me and my identity. And now I see them as like, oh, this is just
Yes.
how my body and my mind respond. This isn't like who I am as a person. And like, how many times now do I feel to tell you about like having, it's like my brain is having there's two people inside there having conversations with each
Yeah.
other to figure out what's going on. So I think I say all that, I guess, like the hope is, I think for a long time I didn't really like having, like I was skeptical about hope, like, is it even real? Like, is it just
Yeah.
an emotion that leads you on to something that you're never going to get to? But I do think hope can be like a light at the end of the tunnel or a light in the dark tunnel to just know, like, if there's something out there that you want, like, we can achieve anything. And it comes back to just like mindset to do the thing messy, to do
Yeah.
the
I
thing
love it.
messy. And, yeah. So,
Yeah. Beautifully stated. Yeah. So I hear self compassion. I also see the need for, as coaches, a lot of times we extend that compassion to our clients when they don't even see themselves in a positive light. And right, helping them understand that that voice in your head was given to you. It didn't start out as yours, right? So whether it was someone else's negative self-talk or something that was shaming or less than nurturing in the way that you were raised, or, caregivers or teachers, religious leaders, people that are in authority don't realize the weight of their words. And they mean well,
mhm.
but they're not always compassionate. And so
Yeah.
then we get hypercritical of ourselves and that voice in our head, which really set out to keep us safe, keeps us hemmed in, keeps us boxed in. And so you get introduced through coaching, through our coaching, you get introduced to the fact that you don't have to listen to that voice anymore, that you have the right to break up with that unkind voice, and that you can start extending
Yeah.
compassion to
Hmm.
yourself. You can get curious about why and what you've been through and how it's impacted you. And then we work together to build a plan to move forward toward those goals. Right? That you don't have to live in that place of feeling stuck. Well, this is it? This is all I have in life? You know? So I love hearing your feedback. I love hearing your experiences through the coaching dynamic. I had a client today show up and she goes, I don't want to be here. but I also don't want to be where I've been up until now. And I know that the conversation we have today is going to take me where I want to go. So I'm willing to sit through the discomfort of not wanting to be here, but I'm not willing to sit through the discomfort of staying the same. That's all about self-discipline. That's also breaking up with that thinking,
Yeah.
that there's no point in going, nothing's going to change, it doesn't matter, yada, yada, yada. It doesn't, you know what I mean? She wasn't listening to that voice. She predetermined that what she was going to do on Friday afternoon was show up and have a conversation, right?
And I feel like, again, like the coaching dynamic is so powerful because, like, at first it's so hard. I feel like it was months and months before, like, one, that I even realized, like, that the voices in my head were a problem. Or that's, like, what was that was a problem. And then just like, okay, I recognize this is the problem. And then you're like, oh, okay, now I know it's a problem. We think like it just can be fixed automatically. And that's just like not the case. Like, and having that consistent time, like every week to be like, oh, how did the voices show up this week? Like, what were they saying? Is this true? Is it not true? Like, how did I handle it? How did I respond? Like, how do I want to respond?
Yeah.
We'll see how next week goes. And then like that way at least like the thought is on your mind. And we think about how like humans learn. It's like through repetition. And that's
100%.
it's true for our physical health, it's true for our mental health, it's true when we're learning a new concept at work, studying a new concept in school. And it's almost like there is a level of teaching and educating that happens like when you are in a coaching dynamic.
100%. Yeah, you're learning. And with learning, we have new neural pathways. And exactly what you were saying is, number one, I didn't know that that voice was anything other than my voice. I didn't know that I could think anything else if I wanted to. And now that I do know, how do I make that happen? And repetition is key. So learning to overlay those negative thoughts like roots in a dirt road, right? Maybe we want to shift that and start making a new path. Well, that requires repetition. A path in the woods doesn't happen overnight. It's because people have traversed that path over and over and over, and then it becomes a trail. And that's the same thing that we have to do in coaching. And I tell you guys all the time, right? You didn't get here overnight. You're not going to get out of this overnight. I'm sorry. It's not. I'd love to tell you there's quick fix answers and tomorrow it's going to be all better. It's not. But that doesn't mean that through consistent work and refusal to give up, like the chick I told you about this afternoon that was like, yeah, you know what? I didn't want to be here today, but I also don't want to be stuck anymore. So I know that if I show up for this conversation, right, that will make a difference. That will make an impact in my healing journey.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I feel like the lesson that you experience, like once you've gone through a transformation, like this one, I feel like then you don't necessarily have like a blueprint, so to speak, but like, for instance, like, okay, I have been meeting with like a dietitian now, like for the last month, and once a week or so, and I don't really feel like that much has changed. And today he was like, how's it going? And I'm like, I don't think it's going, like, there's nothing really major to report, but I'm still going to keep showing up because, it's probably not going to happen in a matter of 4 weeks. So maybe 30, 60, 90, maybe 6 months, but I'm just like, I still want to change. Like I still want to evolve like my relationship with food and my ability, exercise and all of that. So it's like, I, I feel like, Abby 3, 5 years ago, the old version, I would have just given up or been like, oh, this isn't working. And now I'm just like in the mindset of like, well, still pretty early. We'll keep going.
So as we're talking, you hear the importance of self-compassion,
Mm-hmm.
being kind to you in this journey, in this process. Because lasting change takes time.
It really does. Yeah. Which I feel like is so sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, which is like so evident too. I mean, you think about thinking about like the Biggest Loser Netflix documentary that came out, how it like goes through, and I'm not sure if you saw that, but basically it went through and interviewed a number of like the contestants were on the show, and like how 90% of them gained all their weight back because it was such like aggressive change so quickly. It was not sustainable.
Yes. Oh, that's a
and
great
there
point.
wasn't like profound fundamental change.
Yes. Yeah. And what we're looking to do is help people make sustainable change, not quick fix answers. And I know right now in social media, there's so much out there. You can watch reels and just lose yourself in TikTok and, Instagram and see all these folks that are talking about these answers. Like, hey, do this, do this, do this.
Mm-hmm.
Lasting change takes time. I think I shared with you in another episode that a client that was like, yeah, I was listening to so-and-so and they were saying, oh yeah, and one day I just decided to make a change. And she goes like, frankly, that pissed me off. And it made me feel bad about myself because how am I've been working at this for, 3 years and I haven't made that kind of change. And before you, I was with another, therapist and like, what am I doing wrong? I said, you're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
That's the highlight reel. When they say, oh, I made a decision. Well, you made a decision to show up today. You made a decision 3 years ago to start having a conversation with me. Understanding that you have years and years of family dynamics that have caused challenges, that you just don't unravel that overnight.
Right.
So if it takes you 3 to 5 years to get to the place that you are the partner that you would love to be with, that you are the parent that you wish you had, those are 3 to 5 years that are wildly, wonderfully invested. Now, I'm not saying that all of our coaching dynamics are going to take 3 to 5 years, but I am saying if you want lasting change, it doesn't happen in, 6 weeks or less,
Mm-hmm.
And are you willing to invest in you in a weekly component, right? Or a monthly component? I don't know what you're willing to invest in you. There's not a personal trainer on the planet that's going to say, hey, yeah, sure, let's do this for 3 weeks and you're going to be in the best shape of your life. Right. Those are lifestyle changes. They tell you one simple change, and then you add a layer to that. When we work with people that have issues with sleep, one simple change, and then you want to layer that experience. So maybe they set their bedtime at 8:00. Okay. And then maybe they incorporate some reading, or they have a candle or a diffuser, or they have a nighttime meditation that they listen to, or certain kinds of music. You layer it. And each time you layer the experience, it gets more and more ingrained and grounded. And you have a better chance of that becoming a ritual, not just something they do once in a while. But you can't start with all of
it. And it becomes like inherent, like yes, to the point of like you're not even thinking about it. You just know, oh, this is part of my day.
Correct. And the thing is that the neuroscience supports that that's all your brain needs is one simple change. Your brain doesn't need some massive, oh my God, I'm going to redo my morning ritual and I'm going to do this and that. Your brain doesn't need that. Your brain needs consistency. Simple changes, consistent over time is what your brain needs to affect change. So instead of us trying to be radical, let's just keep it simple and then add to it as we start to see the evolution begin and then support that journey.
And assess and pivot as needed and try some things out, and some things will work and some things won't. And then you try some other things and then you just keep moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100%. Makes me think about, as we were talking in the last session about the stages of change and how we're in an upward spiral of becoming. And you're talking about bumping into things that don't work. People will try a diet and they'll do it for a while. So if you think about change, hey, I didn't know I had an issue. Maybe I go to the doctor and they say my A1C level is high. So that means I've got to start monitoring what I'm eating and maybe moving my body a little bit more. So I went from not realizing there was a problem to the doctor now says that I have a challenge that I need to work on. Then I start thinking about it. That's called contemplation. Then we go to preparation. We start reviewing gyms. Maybe we start looking at diet. We start looking at, maybe some food delivery service, and then action, right? We pull the trigger. We join a gym. We order, I want to say HelloFresh, but I'm not plugging that. Factor,
Yeah.
some food related, delivery service.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get out and we agree to start doing the things. And then we maintenance that for 6-8 months and we're doing pretty good. And then maybe we go to a wedding or we go someplace and we overindulge and we bump into something that makes us go, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about the fact that I might be vulnerable to eating the wrong things while social events
Yeah.
make me want to eat everything. Well, guess what? That's not a failure. Right? That's an opportunity to bump into something that you hadn't thought of before. So pre-contemplation that heads you right back into contemplation. So don't waste time. Don't waste time on self-deprecating. It's not useful. It's what I tell everybody, it's a luxurious waste of your time. Don't bother with beating yourself up, right? Notice what you're noticing and then start contemplating, think about it, start planning, execute again, action, and start living your life again. And then, yes, know that you're going to bump into something else that's going to cause you to go, I didn't think about that. I guess I need to think about that. And then we go round again.
And then the assessment of like, what did you do right? What would you do differently next time?
Yeah, exactly. What did I do right? I took into consideration that my body needed to change. What would I do differently? I would plan for social events like weddings, right? Kindness and curiosity. That is all that self-compassion is, right? Kindness and curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
spend too much time beating ourselves up, letting that inner critic get the best of us. It served us once. We can talk at length. Maybe we'll do a whole nother talk about inner child and trauma and how we learned how that voice was imprinted upon us, right? But that voice kept us safe when we were little. Play small. If I criticize me, maybe I can figure it out before somebody else criticizes me. If I reject them, maybe they won't reject, I'll reject them before they reject me. But those aren't serving us anymore. So we have to be willing and open to exploring a new way of having conversation with ourselves, a new way of communicating with ourselves. Right?
Which I think then leads us to having different conversations with other people too. It's like when we learn to be a little bit to be more compassionate with ourselves and more understanding when it comes to moving through change, which change is the only constant in our lives. It's the only constant in other people's lives too. And it's just everybody is in this world like trying to figure themselves out in the world around them and trying to figure, what do they care about? What do they believe in? What kind of life do they want to have? How am I going to get there? And that's, the 1,000-foot view umbrella, but underneath that is like navigating through all these different changes and bumping into people and jobs and living in different places and different relationships, trying to figure out like, oh, what does align with that 30,000-foot view of the life that I'm trying to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
It is. Yeah. I just feel like that's so important because again, like going back to that social media thing, it's just like, I will say, I mean, not all social media is bad. I do find a lot of it very inspiring. And I think there is a lot of thought provoking things on there. I think it can be used very much as a tool for like good and information sharing, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, its ability to perpetuate like the instantaneous like transformation is just like, it's unrealistic and it's impossible. I mean, nothing good, nothing like truly foundational or good like happens
Quickly.
fast. You
Yeah.
know, it's like building a business, like
Yeah.
building a family, buying a home, like, what, and those are just a couple
Relationships
examples,
in
but like a
general.
new job, exactly, a new relationship, like things take time. They
Yeah.
take time. And I think, and they take curiosity. I feel like I see that a lot in people dating and relationships. I feel like the dating world is so cutthroat, at least for folks like and like my age group. And it's like, oh well, if this person doesn't act in the exact way that I expect, I'm not, I'm done. Versus like having a conversation of like, oh, like this is important to me. Like, what do you think about this? Or, have you, given this type of support to somebody else before? And
Right.
like, approaching those conversations with like curiosity and compassion
Mm-hmm.
again to at least investigate. Like, okay, like if this person was aware and this person knew exactly what and how I needed it, would they do it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or and
So,
if not, then great, don't break up with them, But like if they truly knew everything behind the curtain, would
yeah,
they show up? I think a lot of people would.
I
I
think
think a
so
lot of
too.
people want to help and show up for people in the way that they need to, but there's a lot of mystery. And it's
That's
like
true.
goes back to that vulnerability of like,
Yeah, you use the word vulnerability, right? And be okay with having the hard conversations. Um, I want to shift gears a little bit. And I
yeah.
think this is, we can springboard, right? Um, about setting boundaries and how setting boundaries and speaking your truth helps us actually reconnect with our authentic selves, but then helps us connect with others. You know, it's
Hmm.
scary. That's exactly what you're saying, to speak up and say, I need this, or I'm not okay with that. Those are all boundaries. And it's scary because what I say earlier, we will choose attachment over authenticity. So we're afraid of losing people. So we don't want to speak our truth. But without speaking our truth and setting boundaries, you know, how do we have authentic relationships without boundaries?
I don't know if you can.
I agree.
I feel like then it's like you're building a almost like faux reality of like this perceived level of comfort that's there based on like what's been presented up until that point.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. And it is scary, right? It is like because there is risk. And I think I don't think many people are very comfortable with risk. Humans want to know the outcome. They don't want to know the discomfort or the unknown when a risk is involved. And um, for somebody who believes that they're like pretty good at having, the hard conversation, being truthful, like it's still not easy. Like you still have that feeling in your gut, like, oh my God, I have to do this and I don't want to, but we like
Yeah.
need to. Like, I don't know if it's ever, and it comes like more naturally to some than others. But yeah, it's like when you're working that muscle through time, it's still like,
I think once we get to the place that we are secure within ourselves, that we've learned to comfort ourselves and we're going to be okay, that we
mm-hmm,
don't need someone else. We are hardwired for interdependence, but more times than not we are codependent with other folks. Okay? So once we get to that place that we, you know what, I'm okay and I can comfort myself, then it's okay that we journey alone as adults. Littles need adults in their world. And so anytime you're afraid to speak your truth, know that that's your inner child that's frightened.
yeah,
And, and that's an abandonment wound. And that's part of
definitely
what we,
abandonment, rejection,
yeah,
those.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't love me, who's going to take care of me? Irony is, as an adult, you're going to take care of you. You're the
Yeah,
one that loves you. You're the one that's there for you. And that doesn't mean it's I want to say an army of one, right? You're not alone. But were you, as an adult, to need to go it alone for a little while? You're more than capable. You're already an adult. You're already paying your own bills. You're already making sure you eat dinner at night. And if you're not, see, there's that self-compassion piece. Are you taking care of you? What are your self-care rituals like? You know, are you making sure you're eating? Are you getting in the gym? Or are you dependent upon someone else
Yeah.
to get that done? Then they're parenting. They're not your partner.
Yeah.
You know? So you have to get honest with yourself, and you have to be around other people that are willing to be honest with you also. And that's where coaching is such a great dynamic, because you and I can challenge the paradigms. You know, who are you and what are you expecting from the people in your world?
Absolutely. Yeah, and to do it in like a safe space where it's like you can be messy. You can say the thing that you're afraid to say to everybody else because
100%. If you can't show up in this conversation and say the thing that you can't say anywhere else, then we're not doing our job. We haven't created safety, right? This is the testing ground,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
This is where
We need
you
to practice.
practice. That's right. Role plays, practice, you know, hashing
Yeah.
out. How can I handle this situation? I want to say this, but I'm not sure how, right?
Yes.
But if we haven't created safety as coaches, then our folks aren't going to know that this is a place of learning. Without vulnerability, there's no learning. That's what Brene Brown tells us.
Yeah. I feel like that kind of space provides such a relief, or it can, like, you know, to get the thing off your chest, especially too, like, depending on what type of environment you grew up in. Like, when you think about people who struggle with people pleasing or perfectionism, people that, you know, grew up in an environment where they didn't feel like they could be themselves, so to speak,
Right.
and to finally have an environment where
They can
you could
be
say the thing,
themselves. Yeah, exactly.
say the
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. 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 A lot of these concepts are in my new book,
Oh,
Silencing
yeah,
Inner Critic, which will be out in October.
that's right.
So great information there. So if you want to check it out, you can. It'll be on Amazon. Why don't we talk about this? Why don't we talk about what shifts when someone moves from living in survival mode to consistently overthinking, overfunctioning? You mentioned people pleasing. That's really what got me thinking about the book, because there's so much in there about comparison, people pleasing, that inner critic, all the things that we've talked about today are in there, to a place of self-trust and balance. So tell me, what shifts? What do you see in your coaching clients, Abby?
I feel like there's a level of calmness where they don't necessarily feel rushed to make a decision. They like give themselves the space to really think through um, what the best choice is for them. I feel like there's also this separation of like other people's messes are no longer their messes, and um, I would say just like a level of confidence and competence of like being I think you've said this, like being kind with your words and ruthless with your decision making. Like
Yes.
there's no longer this it's not so much like second guessing, because there is certain there's like curiosity or wonderment or like kind of like sorting through different options, but not necessarily like there's not as much like second guessing, because there's
Well,
just
okay.
like this level of knowing.
Yes, because when you've gotten to that place that you're debilitated in decision making and you are stuck in that second guessing mode, then you know the critic's in the driving seat. Right? You no longer are trusting yourself. So when people are confident in their decision making, right? And fact is, adults inform, children explain. Okay. So if we're over explaining, over sharing, that's telling us that's a trauma response. That's a childlike behavior. That is us seeking approval. So when we notice those behaviors, and we know people are still working through their stuff, people that can confidently say, no, I'm not available tonight, maybe another time. I've thought about it. That job opportunity sounds fabulous. It's not a fit for me,
Yeah.
right? Or,
Go on a date with somebody. Oh, they were nice, but not for me.
right. We're not values aligned. So
Yeah.
nice guy, but I just don't see it. Or nice girl, but I just don't see it. We do this in dating. I'm glad you brought that up. We do this in dating. We'll say, oh, I don't really want to tell him, dot, dot, dot. Or we don't want to tell her, dot, 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 until we've been seeing each other a little bit longer. Why? Because we want them to be emotionally invested so that maybe they'll come on board with our way of thinking instead of, I am confident in the fact I do not want children, you know, and I want that to be a conversation that is upfront because I want that person to know that if they do want kiddos, although they may be great, I'm great, we, might have a ton of fun together. We're not values aligned, and I'm not going to ask them to not do that. And
It's
I'm not
not
going
be
to,
that.
I hope that they won't ask me to compromise my value system. But that takes a lot of confidence, a lot of groundedness, that feeling of sureness in who we are, that I don't have to latch on to the first person that I go out with, that it's okay, that it's not okay, that we weren't a fit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's interesting. I think I definitely seen that among some of my clients, like a shift in this approach to dating where it's like they're getting very clear about like what they value and like how do those values show up in actions with the people that they surround themselves with. That is almost more so like their measure of, again, like leading them to logical decision making when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to like to continue dating that person or not.
Right. Right. We don't think about dating like a job interview. If somebody can be a great human. You ever hired a great human and you love hanging out with them, but they do not have the skill sets to do the job, and you're ending up compensating and doing stuff and staying late to try to, make up for the fact that they don't know Excel or they don't know how to work a database. And you're like, but they're really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Like them, but they don't fit.
Right.
Right? If we thought more about, hey, this person's really nice, I really like them, right? But they don't have the emotional capacity to be available to what I'm going through right now, or they don't have the communication skills to be able to navigate a.
Is that a bell?
No, well, yes, it was. So I had a sneeze,
Okay.
and a bird, and then a bird. So
Okay.
we'll go back and do
That's
it
cool.
again.
I was like, was that like a Riverside sound effect? That was cool.
Yes, that is. That's my herd. Shush. Sorry. No, it's like they don't have the communication skills to be
Mm.
able to navigate a disagreement, right? They shut down emotionally because they don't have the emotional intelligence to be able to stay with a hard conversation, right? It might be a
And I
really great
think too, being
person,
able to
fun to hang
separate.
out with. Go ahead.
Hmm. I was going to say, and like the emotional intelligence to separate the two. I see that a lot in people where other people's bad behavior or like behaviors that they clients will think like, oh, well, somebody else is behaving this way because of me. And it's like a lot of times people's behavior has nothing to do with others. It has
Nothing.
everything to do with themselves
Correct.
and maybe like where they're at in their life, what they have the capacity to be doing, what they're actually interested in. Um,
And how do you
and
differentiate? How do you separate yourself out and go, I had nothing to do with this?
yeah, like I'm
And if you
assessing the
don't know,
situation to
right,
make a choice about
right,
what I want to be doing. Yeah.
right, whether or not this is a good fit for me, and whether or not this person's behavior is going to draw out something in me that I'm proud of at the end of the day.
Mm. Yeah.
Because sometimes we want to stick with it, and it's like, is that really necessary? And I'm not saying we bail out on relationships. I'm just saying that how do you know yourself well enough to know when a yes is a yes and a no is a no?
So it's like, what are the deal breakers? What are the deal breakers?
Right. And I don't think it should just be, if they cheated, I would break up with them. That's not enough. I mean, that's an obvious, universal
Right.
deal breaker, right?
Yeah.
But what if it's, their texting style, when they go to bed at night, what temperature they like to sleep? There are many, many things that realistically can make life miserable. If you like to sleep in at 68 degrees and your partner likes it at 75, you guys are going to be miserable.
Mhm.
Can you compromise? What is your capability of compromise? There are a million different things that could be deal breakers. It doesn't make you high
Right.
maintenance. It makes you sure about what you need as a human and what your deal breakers are and what your things you're willing to compromise on.
And then too, I would say, I think too, there's like this perception in society, or maybe it's just how it's perpetuated on social media too, of like, well, this is my boundary. You're either going to abide by it or not. And this like very hot and cold, black and white. And
It's
I
just
feel like
faulty thinking, right?
which is what? I'm sorry.
Faulty thinking. It's a cognitive
Yeah.
distortion, very black and white thinking. It's not all or nothing
Right.
ever.
Right. And to promote like the awareness of like what is important to you, just like you said, like what do I need, and to like bring those and have a conversation like with your partner, with your friends, and be like, hey, like, this is important to me, like how can we fit this into our dynamic when we have these differences, and then like drive collaboration, and again curiosity, and come, because if you love that person, like, and your problem is that you sleep 6 degrees different, like there are solutions. Like
Yeah,
you can come up with, if you really wanted to, Um, so, and I think getting back to some of that, like, um, relationships aren't these just like picture perfect things that just happen. Like it's saying like, hey, this is what I need. How can we, and like listening to your partner, what do they need? And like, that's probably going to be different than how you operate too. So
when you think about all the things that we're talking about, this is exactly what I'm saying as far as coaching is concerned, and showing up for the hard conversations with your coach when you've quick fixed an answer and it's like, yeah, I'm good. Are you? Are you good? We don't want to write somebody off because of 6 degrees of difference. We also don't want to write off the 6 degrees of difference and act like it's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And we have folks that want to show up, check a box, fix a problem, and scoot on to the next thing. We're okay with that. But if you want lasting change, you're going to slow down a minute and contemplate and consider. Be kind, be curious, be compassionate to yourself. And that's one thing that's different about social media, different about culture right now, because culture is about the quick fix answer. And in reality, life isn't about the quick fix answer, which leads us back to legacy, right?
What do you want to build? Who do you want to become? Who are you today?
Correct. Right. It's not what's waiting
Legacy
for
is
you at the
long
end of your
lasting.
life. What'd you say? I'm sorry, say it again.
Oh, because legacy is long lasting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not what's waiting for you at the end of your life, right? Can be. What are people going to say at your funeral? What are they going to say when you leave a job? But it's
What you built
also,
today.
say it again.
It's what you build today.
Correct. Yeah. It's right now. It's what you're shaping right now. So the question is, what remains? What do I want to pass on? Not through my achievements, but through my presence. To wrap up our conversation today, I want you to leave you with this thought.
That was great. Are you gonna say something else, or?
Yeah, I was just going to wrap it up. So I was going to say, as we wrap up today's conversation, I want to leave you with this thought. Like I said, legacy isn't what's waiting for you at the end of your life. It's what you're shaping right now. Okay. So thanks for being a part of our conversation. Remember, you're already a living legacy. Keep writing the story, and keep writing the story with us together. Until next time, I'm Jody.
I'm Abby. Bye. Okay.